All right, hello and welcome everybody to KBO Chats Live. I'm Sam Pasco alongside Erik Halterman, and we are breaking down the entire KBO slate with some of the top picks and some great analysis here. Be sure to check out rotowire.com/free KBO. Link is going right there below me. For all the KBO stats, we'll be going over cheat sheets, everything right there, rotowire.com/free KBO. We're seeing some people trickle in already. Josh, welcome back. First live show. I'll be going for a while here, but great to have you back. From the 2020 season, great season, now moving into 2021. Let's start now, Erik, with a quick overview of the league, looking at the standings. Josh, you might not be familiar here, but we got the Lions in first place. Of all teams, the Samsung Lions are still in number one. Erik, what are we looking at right here? I see a lot of parity, 6 teams at or above 500, 7 teams at or above. What are we looking at in terms of the KBO standings a couple weeks in now?
Yeah, we got 7 teams all within 3 games of first place. I think most notable for me is the Heroes' recent charge. They started off surprisingly cold, but near the bottom for quite a few weeks. But in their last 19 games, they're 13-6. This isn't a team that I expected to be significantly worse than last year. They did, of course, lose Ha-Seong Kim to the San Diego Padres. That's a big blow. Anytime you lose a player good enough to move to MLB, that's going to take a big bite out of the lineup, but it's still a talented core. So it's not at all a surprise to see them fully back in the mix. I would expect them to stay in the mix. Whether or not they'll definitely make a playoff spot, I'm not sure, but it makes a lot more sense to see where they are now than where they were a few weeks ago. Also worth noting, the Lions still holding on, and the games they've won so far definitely count. I wouldn't say they're at all a lock to make it, given that, just 3 games ahead of 7th place. But we're going to talk about one of the big reasons why they're doing so well, and that's the breakout of young Tai-In Wan when we get to that game. They did just lose Ben Lively with the shoulder injury, though, so that top trio at the top of the rotation, which was really driving their success, is down to just 2 between Wan and Buchanan. But they definitely do have a talented core for that roster, so it's not completely out of nowhere.
All right, Lions, decent enough. We'll get to that. They do have the ace going tonight. But we first start moving into the daily lineups here. The SSG Landers against the Kia Tigers. Josh, the new brand name for the SK Wyverns. No longer we now have the SSG Landers, who won in game 1 of this series yesterday, 7-5 over the Kia Tigers. 2 former MLB pitchers going tonight in Wilmer Font and Aaron Brooks. Got to give the edge here, I would think, to Font, and we'll start with him. He has 9 strikeouts in his last start, 9 Ks, and has a 15-6 strikeout to walk ratio over his last 3 starts. What can you tell me about Font, Erik?
Yeah, his season numbers look pretty mediocre, at least that ERA. But that's because he had a very bad first start, and we're still early enough in the year that one bad start throws everything off. If you look at just his last 4 starts, he's got an ERA of 3.68 and a whip of 1.05, which is exactly the kind of numbers you want from your foreign starter. Even with that bad start factored in, he's striking out 24% of opposing batters while walking just under 10%. So he looks very much the part of a frontline starter if you ignore that poor outing.
So that's what we're looking at for Font, going for SSG tonight. Facing off against Font will be Aaron Brooks, a guy for the Tigers who was very impressive last year, but was roughed up in his last start and is not looking great. Only 3 earned runs allowed, but has allowed now 9 hits in his last start, and then that whopping 13 hits in his start before that. Are we starting to see a little regression from Aaron Brooks right now? Only getting through, 6 innings is impressive, but those hits and those contact numbers we talked about before aren't doing him any favors.
Yeah, I think that's the main story of Brooks this season, is that suddenly he's very hittable. You see 2 hit totals in double digits and another with 22 hits over his last 2 starts and 9 runs. Last year, he was excellent all around, hardly walked anybody, struck out 22.2% of opposing batters. But this year, the main difference in his stat line is that strikeout rate has plummeted. It's now just 14.5%. So giving up a ton of contact, and some days you're going to have all that contact find the hole. You're going to get starts like he's had in most of his recent ones. He's also that also hurts him for fantasy purposes, because he's averaging less than 4 strikeouts a start. That really caps his high point total potential. And it's disconcerting because this all comes with a drop in his velocity. It's down one tick. It was 92.6 miles per hour last year on the fastball, down to 91.6 this year. So there seems to be reason to believe that he's not the same Aaron Brooks as last year. Now he's more of a control specialist who has to hope that his grounders find his teammates' gloves, which is going to work a fair amount of the time. He's by no means a bad starter, but he was, I think, pretty easily a top 5, maybe even top 3-ish arm last year, and I don't think you could make a case that he's anywhere close to that this season.
Yeah, I think there were points last year where we might have compared Brooks to Dan Straley in that sort of stratosphere, not looking like it this year as much. Now let's check out the offenses here, taking a look at the lineups here on rotowire.com/free KBO. SSG, they're 7th in runs per game. They've been worse recently, though, averaging 4.25 runs over their last 4. Kia's not doing much better. They're on a 4-game losing streak with just 13 runs over that stretch. Can't imagine there's too much offensive targets tonight in these lineups.
Yeah, especially given how good the pitchers are, although I will note that Jung Che for the Landers has been incredible. In his last 12 games, he's got a 1394 OPS. If you zoom in on just his last 7, he's homered 5 times, driven in 13 runs. One of the best hitters all time in KBO. He's second on the all-time home run leaderboard, and he's still just, I think, 34 years old, so he's got time to finish his career's first overall, really showing no signs of slowing down. Not the best matchup against Brooks, but with how good he is, I think he should be always in consideration for DFS.
Yeah, some crazy numbers there. A lot of multi-hit games, as you can see here in his player log. Let's move over now to the pick. Here, looking at the odds, we have the total set at 8 runs, not too surprising with these two pitchers and what they're capable of. And we have the Tigers as the favorite. Where are we going to go here, Erik?
Yeah, I think we've alluded to it already. I think I'm picking the Landers here. Nice to get them as the underdog as well. Neither lineup has been great, but the Tigers have been the worst in the league. They're getting almost nothing from Preston Tucker. I think he has just 1 hit in his last 5 games. He was cold for most of the year, had a brief hot streak, but it's bad again, just 2 homers all season. And Hyung-Woo Choi has been out and wasn't good before he was out, so they really just don't have anything. The Landers offense, I don't think is good enough to score a ton of runs either, which is why I'll also take the under. Two strong pitchers, 2 generally weak lineups, but I think I like the Landers better on both sides here.
All right, looking at the under 8 runs and the SSG Landers in this matchup. Moving on to our second matchup on the slate, we got the Kiwoom Heroes taking on the Samsung Lions, the league-leading Samsung Lions. My Dinos aren't doing too well in terms of holding down that top spot. But the Lions, they're there for a reason with Tae-In Won. Got to start with this guy. Kiwoom did kill the Lions last night 15-3, but I can't imagine that they're going to be able to put anywhere near 15 runs up on Won tonight. He's been impressive. 7 scoreless innings his last time out with 8 strikeouts. He had 4 walks in that last start, but get this, he still has a whip under 1 over his last 21 innings pitched. So, I mean, that goes to show you, if you put up 4 walks and your whip is still less than 1, you're doing pretty good. What do we think about Won tonight, Erik? Is he the best starter on this slate?
He may well be. I mean, it's only really this year where he's been anywhere close to this level, but he's super young and was a high draft pick. I think he's just 21 years old. So the fact that he even was a regular starter the last couple of years should have hinted that there was something there, but nothing close to this. I mean, his ERA was, I think it was 4.86 over his first 2 years with a strikeout rate of just 13%. So, passable back-end starter, 4th, 5th starter kind of guy. Suddenly this year, he's the best pitcher in the league so far. I mean, it doesn't get any better than a 1.00 ERA. He's not going to keep an ERA that good. Nobody does, but the improvements for real, most specifically his strikeout rate has more than doubled. That's sitting at 26.4% this year. He also has a career low 6.7% walk rate. And that's all come with a jump in velocity of about a tick and a half. So there's reason to believe that he had the potential to break out, and there's real changes backing that breakout. I think all the excitement we had for Chung-Mo Koo early in the year last year as a young Korean starter putting up huge numbers, I think we should have that same excitement for Won here.
Yeah, if he keeps this up, I might have to get a Lions hat here, switch out the Dinos here. If they're that good with this guy carrying them, watch out. Moving over to the Kiwoom Heroes side, Woojin on just short of a quality start his last time out. 5 2/3 innings pitched, 3 earned runs. Not bad, but the strikeout numbers have been all over the board. He had 2 strikeouts in that start, but then had 7 before that, then none before that, and then 7 again. You can see here on the game log here some unusual trends. Not sure what to make of on with those numbers. Seems to be kind of a mixed bag in terms of strikeouts.
Yeah, I think this is a really great pitching matchup. 2 young guys with a lot of potential. On is somebody who was cited by Sungmin Kim for Fangraphs a couple years ago as a potential MLB prospect. He was great as a reliever last year, even 3 ERA with a whip of 1.03. Strikeout rate in the high 20s last season. Moved him back to the rotation this year, and it has been rocky, as you noted. He's got some good starts and some very short, very poor ones, adding up to a 4.62 ERA and a whip of over 1.5. Walking too many guys, 12.1%. He does have a high strikeout rate, 21.6%. Obviously less than it was in relief, but that's to be expected. There's clearly something here, but I wouldn't say he's at all a finished product. He's also not all that likely to pitch all that deep. He's only reached 5 innings a couple times and has never finished 6 innings. So definitely some excitement there, but he hasn't had the breakout yet that Juan has had.
Yeah, not quite, especially when you look at those walk numbers, like you said. Now, turning our attention to the offenses here, both pretty decent, right about middle of the pack. Kiwoom slightly better at 4th, Samsung at 6th in runs per game on the year. Both offenses are averaging over 5 runs per game, but not sure if that really matters because of these pitchers. Do have to mention, though, that Kiwoom has scored 15 runs twice in their last 3 games, for what that's worth. I mean, I think Juan will be able to shut them down, but do have to note that the Kiwoom offense has been rolling as of recently.
Yeah, so there's a case to start some of their guys, especially because look at all those left-handers that are all going to get the platoon advantage against Juan in the league's most hitter-friendly park. If Juan wasn't having the season he's having, I think there's reason to be excited about nearly every hitter in the Heroes' first 7 or so. I mean, look at a guy like Byung-Ho Park is down at 7. Obviously, he's having a pretty poor year, striking out a lot, was even briefly demoted. But once he gets going, it could be quite a scary lineup. Same with David Freitas, has shown nothing. He was demoted. He's back, but was benched in his first game back, 626 OPS. We don't even have him in the projected starting lineup, which I think is accurate. So yet again, Heroes getting nothing from that foreign hitter slot. But they do have Jung-Ho Lee, and sometimes that's all you need. Still doesn't have a home run this season, but he's got 5 straight multi-hit games, hitting 650 over his last 5. There's a case, if you want to be contrarian in larger DFS contests, to select some of these guys. I wouldn't advocate for it because I'd be too scared of one, but there's definitely talent there and a hitter-friendly park.
All right, looking here at Jung-Ho Lee's stats, some impressive numbers there over his last 5 games, like you said. Now looking at the pick here, going to the Kiwoom Heroes Samsung Lions matchup. Total set at 10 with the Lions as the favorite. Where are we going to go?
That total is just way too high. I mean, I know it's in Daegu Samsung Lions Park, which is my favorite named baseball stadium in the world because you know exactly where it is and exactly who plays there. It's very hitter-friendly. But, man, one of these pitchers has an ERA of 1. I don't think you can set the total at 10 with that. Obviously, the Lions have some good bats, especially at home. Jose Perella, I think 9 of his 11 homers have come at home. They've got talent. It's a chance that On has one of his bad days, and the Lions do most of this work themselves, but just can't go over 10 with the way Taiyan Wan's pitching. And I got to go with the Lions. Again, given how good Juan has been, he hasn't looked hittable in any of his starts. So even if Woo Jin-on has one of his good ones, that still might make him the second best starter on the day.
All right, going with the under 10 runs and the Samsung Lions in the matchup between Kiwoom and Samsung. Moving over to our third game on the slate, we got the Lotte Giants and the Hanoi Eagles. Lotte won game 1 by a score of 4-3. Hanoi just 2 wins in their last 10 games, but might be able to turn things around tonight if Nick Kingham keeps up what he's been doing recently. 6 innings pitched, 1 earned run, with 6 strikeouts against the NC Dinos, unfortunately. Kingham, bad ERA, but maybe turning things around after a rocky start.
Yeah, I would say he's been inconsistent. I mean, the ERA in the low fours is worse than what you want for a foreign starter, but it isn't bad. Most of his outings have been good. I think in 4 of his 7, he's got 20 or more DraftKings fantasy points. And on the whole, his numbers other than his ERA are, I think, significantly better. A 114 whip is quite good, striking out 21.2% of opposing batters and walking just 6.7%. So he hasn't been reliable, but on the whole, I think he's been everything the Eagles really could ask for, which is nice to see after he didn't really get his chance last year. Obviously, he was signed by the Wyverns and made just 2 starts before being shut down with elbow issues and then eventually released. But it seems like he was indeed somebody who was cut out for success here when healthy.
Yeah, a top prospect for the Pirates a few years back. Good to see him finally getting his chance, staying healthy. See what he can do. Not much competition tonight in terms of the opposing pitcher. You see No with that ERA over 6. I mean, he has gone 5 innings pitched in his last 2 starts, which is something. But, I mean, a whip over 2 and an ERA over 7 in those isn't anything crazy. Would this be a guy you'd want to heavily target against in terms of offense?
Yeah, I heavily considered having the Eagles as one of my top stacks on tonight's DFS cheat sheet. Only problem is they're the Eagles. There's a question there about Ryan Healy. I really thought he was going to be good. I agree with Joe here that he seemed like he had a pretty decent MLB resume for a guy going over to KBO. Plenty of power, and I think he didn't even have serious strikeout issues at the MLB level, if I'm remembering right. This year, man, he's just shown nothing. Strikeout rate 23.3% against a walk rate of 5.4%. Just very bad control of the zone, and when he hits the ball, he's not hitting it hard. His isolated power is under 100. He's slugging. What's he slugging? 342. Just nothing there. I mean, given the matchup against Kyung-Hyun No, maybe you take a chance on him for DFS tonight, but I don't think his price has even dropped like it should, and he won't get the platoon advantage. So just really a disappointing season for him there.
Yeah, nothing to be too proud of for Healy there this season. Thought maybe he would hit bombs, but not off to a great start here. Not even really starting, just not doing too well right now. In terms of the offenses overall, Lotte is about middle of the pack. Hanwha, of course, they are Hanwha. They are 9th in runs per game, so might want to avoid that stack. They are dead last in average and on-base percentage and slugging percentage. All the big 3 they are dead last at. So what are we looking at in terms of the offense? Yeah, not good. I mean, you like No, maybe they explode. Maybe that'd be their chance now, but on a normal day, that's not something you want to be looking for. 240.
Yeah, the one Eagle that I actually do like is their leadoff guy, young infielder Yunwon Jung. I like him because he strikes out he walks more than 1 out of every 5 plate appearances, despite the fact that he has not really any power. He's slugging just 359. I don't know why pitchers throw balls to him when he doesn't do damage, but he must have just an absolutely incredible eye. 429 on base percentage. If he had any real talent hitting behind him, he would be up there in the league lead in runs. But, he gets on base. He gets stranded, unfortunately.
Yeah, not a ton of power, but get on base. We'll take those points. All right, moving now to the pick here for the Lotte Giants Hanwha Eagles game. Total set at 9.5. Where are we going to go, Erik?
Yeah, as a Philadelphia area native, I love picking the Eagles over the Giants in this NFC East battle, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. Just haven't seen anything from Kyung-Hyun No this year. He's an old veteran who was, mediocre at best last year, and it's been significantly worse this season. Barely more strikeouts than walks. ERA starts with a 6. Even the Eagles, I think, are going to do enough here, assuming Nick Kingham has one of his good games, which he'll be helped here by the fact that the Giants are incredibly right-handed, so he'll get the platoon advantage against, I think, everybody except Asap San. There might be one other guy who sometimes hits in the bottom of the order. So that's enough to tilt things towards the Eagles for me. And I think I'm going to go under. Not a ton of confidence on that one because No is very shaky for the Giants. But I think the Eagles don't have enough to really take advantage. And I think an Eagles pick here is predicated on the idea that Kingham's going to have one of his good starts, hold the Giants to 2-3 runs. So I could see a 4-3, 5-3 kind of game here.
Mm-hmm. All right, going with the Eagles over the Giants and the under 9.5 runs in this game. Moving on to our fourth game of the slate, and then we will get to our top picks after we finish all five, so stay tuned for that. But moving over to the NC Dinos against the LG Twins. LG actually shut out the Dinos yesterday in game one, 1-0. Two young guys on the bump tonight. Small sample size from Lee, but actually Shin has been pretty nice in the rotation so far. 16 innings pitched in his last three with an ERA under 2. I mean, got over a strikeout per inning and 3 straight Ws. I mean, he's no coup, but I mean, he's maybe stepping into that role and helping out the Dinos when they're not in first place right now.
Yeah, we got two really good matchups to close here. I think it's last year's top 4 teams playing each other in these two games. Shin has been what the Dinos needed. Their pitching is the problem as usual. Their offense is unparalleled again, but just kind of having a lot of issues finding a back-end starter. Shin has been one of them, though. Last year, he didn't really show anything, just a 5.79 ERA in 42 innings, struck out just 13.3% of opposing batters. This year, he's got that ERA under 3, whip of 119, and the strikeout rates jumped all the way up to 20.8%. And he's been actually even better as a starter. He's been a swingman this year, 4 starts and 5 relief appearances. But it's rare to see stronger numbers when he moves into the rotation. But he's actually only allowed 4 total earned runs across his 4 starts. Some signs of shakiness in his last 2, and then he has just 7 strikeouts against 6 walks, but still only allowed 3 earned runs there. So on the whole, there's not a whole lot to complain about.
Yeah, looking like some good numbers. Made that start early on, had some time in the pen, and now going pretty strong. In terms of Lee going over to the LG Twins side, got the ERA under 3, but it is a small sample size there. As you can see from the game logs, not a ton of innings pitched. And the walks, the strikeouts, a little questionable, 9-5 on the year. What do we make of Lee?
Yeah, I mean, look at any number but the ERA, and it's going to, I think, tell you the story here. There might be some potential with Lee. He's young. He was a 5th overall pick just a few years ago. But 3 starts, all very short, no more than 4.1 innings. Seems like the Twins are pulling him before he can get lit up, and I'm not sure they're going to be able to do that against an offense as good as the Dinos. All his supporting numbers are pretty shaky. 140 whip could be worse, but strikeout rate of 10.9% against a walk rate of 19.6%. That's not how you have success in this league. He's got decent numbers, pretty good numbers in the Futures League, but I think facing the league's best offense is a whole lot tougher than facing minor leaguers. So I think the runs allowed are finally going to match those underlying numbers in this one.
Yes, he's in for a treat tonight when he faces the Dinos offense that ranks first, number 1 in the league in terms of runs per game. In terms of their last 9 games, beside that one loss, before that loss, they were 8-1 in that 9-game stretch, and they were putting up almost 7 runs per game. So they've been hot recently. LG, in terms of offense, they're kind of low-key bad, 8th in runs per game on the year. And if you remove that one game where they scored 14 runs, we can pull that up here on the team page here on rotowire.com/free KBO. Kind of plug the site as always. You remove that one game where they put up 14, and they're only put up 22 runs in 6 games. It's not an amazing offense. What do we make of these two lineups?
Yeah, there's just not getting anything from Roberto Ramos, the Twins. He was so good last season, although he did have extended slumps, so this is nothing new, but this one's been pretty extended. Just a 678 OPS on the season. Had like a brief, somewhat hot streak, or the start of one, but he's fallen hard again, just a 503 OPS over his last 6. Twins do have other talented hitters. Hyun-Soo Kim is good enough to be the top hitter on most teams. And Chenki Hong is having a very good season. Another great top of the lineup on-base threat. He's got an on-base percentage of .439. But not a lot actually outside of Hong and Kim. Really, if Roberto Ramos remembers how to hit, suddenly this lineup is way better and the Twins look like maybe the best team in the league. But right now they're extremely one-dimensional. But thankfully for them, that the dimension that they're good in, the pitching staff, has been excellent. They've got a ton of really good starters this season, and not just that. They've got a very good bullpen. I think five of their top 6 relievers in terms of total innings have ERAs under 4, and 4 of those guys have ERAs of 2.80 or less. So when they do pull their starter early in this one, which I would expect them to, they have a much better chance than most teams of throwing competent pitchers out there for the next 5-6 innings, whatever it has to be.
All right. Yeah, Josh noting there that elite pitching staff there might be the best in the league. But they got a big challenge. Their youngster Lee has a big challenge against the Dinos tonight. You going to back him, or are we going to go against him for the Dinos Twins matchup here with the total set at 10 runs?
I got to go with the Dinos. I mean, we've seen more from Min-Hyuk Shin, and their lineup is just way too good. The heart of that order, nothing can compete with it in the league. Aaron Altair is probably the MVP candidate this year. Top OPS in the league, leads the league in homers too with 12. Obviously, Yu Ji-young is having the same season as always. Sungbum Na is slightly down, but slightly down for him is like an OPS in the high 800s, so nothing to worry about there. And then their veteran third baseman Sukmin Park is having an outstanding stretch. In his last 10 games, he's got a 1637 OPS, driving in 19 runs in those 10 games. He's a guy who was an elite hitter for most of the last decade, the early part of the last decade, as a Lion, helped the Lions reach 6 straight Korean series, and he's having a late career renaissance here. Just way too many good hitters. Even though the Twins have a good bullpen, I think that offense is going to get it done.
All right, looking at the Dinos Twins, we're going with the over 10 runs.
Yeah, going with the over because part of the reason for picking the Dinos, well, it's really both sides. They have a better starter and a better lineup. It is a pitcher-friendly park, but I don't think you can contain these Dinos hitters.
Indeed, not. Yeah, number one in offense in terms of runs per game, an elite offense. Pitching questionable, but we're going with the over 10 runs and the NC Dinos for this game. Wrapping up the last game on the slate is perhaps the best matchup here. The Deucin Bears against the KT Wiz, 2 playoff teams from a year ago, and 2 aces on the bump. KT won game 1, 1-0, and they are on a 3-game winning streak. They're sending William Cuevas onto the bump tonight. Ugly ERA there. 2 earned runs, though, only in his last start, but then he had 6 total runs. So not sure what that was about, but 10 earned runs in the start before has not been too great for Cuevas on the year.
Yeah, it's actually both pitchers are questionable, I think. But Cuevas has been far more questionable this year. He missed the start of the year with a back issue, and I think it's fair to wonder if he's truly healthy, given his numbers. An ERA that starts with a 7, a whip of 191, nowhere close to good. His strikeout and walk rates are more bad than awful. Not that that's exactly encouraging and what you want to hear for your foreign starter. 16.2% strikeout rate and a 10.3% walk rate. Looks like a number 5 starter, maybe number 4 starter, not a number 10 starter like he's pitched right now. But even when he's on, though, he's not intimidating. His ERA was in the low 4s last year. So this is a guy who I think at his peak is merely pretty good and is nowhere close to his peak right now.
Yeah, you can see here from his game log that 10-run spot. Does a number on the ERA, but nothing too crazy otherwise. Turning our attention to the opposing pitcher, Ariel Miranda. Lost his last start, but he was excellent in terms of strikeout numbers. 10 Ks in 6 innings pitched, just 1 run allowed. 8 or more strikeouts in 3 of his last 4 appearances. Maybe something a little bit more here than with Cuevas, at least with the strikeout numbers.
Yeah, so if you like the KBO because you like balls in play, if you're sick of modern MLB and you're watching some games where you see singles, you hate Miranda because he doesn't let the ball go in play. His 29.7% strikeout rate is the highest among qualified starters, and his 16.1% walk rate is the highest among qualified starters. So just most, more than any other starter in the league is well more often than anybody else plate appearances and with no contact. It's interesting. Last year, he pitched in Taiwan and was quite good, one of the better starters there. So it's no surprise to see him still pitching generally pretty well with the step up in competition. although he didn't have the walk problem at all last season, just an 8.9% walk rate to go along with a similarly high strikeout rate. So if he cuts those walks, and keeps most of the strikeouts, it's potential to be one of the best starters in the league. When you throw them both together, it's shaky, but maybe if you just miss that many bats, it doesn't matter if you walk one guy in more innings than not.
Yeah, you can see in that start against LG, 6 walks, 4 innings pitched. Not great numbers, but still, 10 strikeouts in that last one. So something. Looking at teams now who Miranda and Cuevas will be facing, it's a good group. KT second in runs per game, Doosan third in runs per game. Outside NC Dinos, these are the two offenses that are the most explosive. What are we looking at in terms of the players that make up these explosive lineups?
Yeah, the Bears still have a ton of talent, even after losing Juwon Cha and Jael O in free agency. Though they might be without Jose Fernandez in this one. He missed the last game with a bruised hand. I think he was hit by a pitch on Monday. Not totally clear whether or not he would play tonight, but it seems slightly more likely that he doesn't. But they still have plenty of talent. Jaewon Kim is good enough to be one of the best hitters on any team in the league. He was an MVP a few years ago. I think it was 2017, maybe 2018. And he has his highest OPS since that season. And even in last year, he was quite good. So plenty of talent there. He's specifically a lefty too, which helps him against Cuevas. I'd like him a lot for daily fantasy tonight, given Cuevas' struggles. But plenty of depth for the Bears and some elite talent on the Wiz side too. Becco Gong could also be the MVP. I know I talked up Altair just a minute ago, but Gong is hitting 414. It doesn't get much better than that. We're already a significant way into the season, and he's well over 400. He had dipped below 400 recently, but 5 multi-hit games in his last 6. That'll get you back up there fast. He's only hit 5 homers this year, but he has shown more home run power in the past, and he has more lately, 3 homers in his last 8 games, 13 RBI over that stretch. The main change for him is that he stopped striking out. He cut his strikeout rate from 16.2% to 10.4%. So if you want to lead the league in batting average, that's sure one way to do it. And he's still so young too, just 21, 22. So he's been a great hitter for years, and he seems to be taking the next step this season.
Indeed. So we've got some good offenses here against some pitchers that have shown potential, but maybe aren't doing the best right now. The total is set at 10 runs for this one. Where are we going to go?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I think I'd mostly trust Miranda, and I just don't trust Cuevas at all. That's a fairly high over-under, but I think with the two lineups being good enough, I am going to slightly lean over. It's a tough one, though. I think I'm leaning over because Cuevas has been so shaky, and Miranda seems to have a dud in him every now and then. If he walks 2 guys in the first inning and then gives up a Becco Gong homer, I don't think that would surprise anybody. But I am going to side with the Bears. I think Miranda has a lot more going for him. I'd much rather have a guy striking out everybody, but with shaky control, than a guy who isn't really doing much of anything in Cuevas. So it's over in Bears for me, but I think that over-under is quite tight.
All right, going with the Bears and the over 10 runs in this game, and that is all 5 games. Now taking a look at the slate in general, we're going to go over the top 3. Great thing here about the daily lineups page on rotowire.com/free KBO. We can check out the weather. Right now, it looks like we've got 0% chance of rain in all these games. Am I correct, Erik? What are we looking at in terms of weather?
Yeah, it's nice to see that. We had, I think, 8 cancellations in a 3-day stretch, something like that. We even had a full makeup slate, or a 4-game makeup slate on Monday that got mostly rained out again. But all the games were clear last night, so it seems like we're good again tonight. Oh, and the other nice thing is this slate, I'm not sure why, it starts earlier, 1 a.m. ET. So if you're, somebody who can stay up somewhat late, but not till 4:30, 5:30 a.m., you might actually catch the lineups before putting in your picks here.
Indeed, for those of us on the West Coast, it's even earlier. So always great to see those start times. Indeed. Let's go to the top 3 picks from the entire slate in terms of totals and sides. What are the top 3 picks on the entire slate?
Yeah, I think let's say that there's a number of ones to consider. I think if you look at the games with the big gaps between the starting pitchers, I think that Lions game, I think I just have to go with them as number one, even though I do like the way the Heroes have been hitting lately. I mean, Taiwan is just untouchable this season. And Wu Jinan could give him a game, but Juan has just been too good. So I think that's number one for me. I think number two is going to be the Dinos over the Twins. Just not really having any faith in Sung Young Lee, walking almost twice as many guys as he's striking out. As noted, they do have a good bullpen, so maybe they only ask Lee to face the order once, and then he turns it over and is okay. But Dinos have a much better offense and a better starter in that one. And then which was the game that I said had the way too high over-under? Because that's my third.
We were looking at, I think that was this Lions game with Taiwan with the ERA of 1, that would be pretty crazy if we got towards upwards of 9.
That would be the one. I was blanking on which one it was, but that one, it was just way too high. You can't set an over-under. You can't have the highest over-under be in the game where the guy has an ERA of an even 1. Obviously, it's not going to be an even 1 all year. Maybe he gives up 2 runs tonight, but I can't see hitting that over.
And going over in that Kiwi Samsung game, getting that graphic up here. There we go. That is the top 3 picks, going with the Lions. Taiwan backing his excellent start to this year. ERA of 1 might not stay, but he's got it as of right now. Then going for the Dinos at number 2 against Lee, who's been young and been good, but a little shaky in that explosive Dinos offense, which ranks number 1 in league offense. And the third pick going over 10 runs in the Kiwi Heroes Samsung Lions game.
Under.
My bad. Mistyped there. Under. Going under.
Key difference
there.
Only the exact opposite, but you were close.
But very close. Under 10 runs in that Kiwi Samsung game. And that is what we got. Thank you guys for tuning in. And that's what we got. Be sure to check out rotowire.com/free KBO for all the lineups as they come out. Early slate tonight. And check out RotoWire KBO on Twitter for live updates as well. Thank you guys for tuning in.
Yeah, thanks for coming, everybody.